I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
It's like a Sharknado, except with poop.
Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I got a good one for y'all. It's Monday, the start of a new week. Oh boy. So we've got fun stuff. We're gonna do an update on the Kraken. Do you remember the Kraken? They were supposed to release it or something like that in Michigan. Well, maybe not so much. So I've got some details on that. We got Prager U, a little sus. Tweeting out some things that are accidentally based. What is this? What is going on here? I'm going to talk about that. Obviously, of course, we know Prager U. They never mean... I mean, they do, but it's so unbelievably mask off. Great. All right. We also have a Newsmax host that's trying to get more people killed. And then Lauren Boebert against welfare. Irony, Lauren Boebert was on welfare. Shocker. I'm going to give you the details and a little bit of criticism as well. So that's fun. We're going to talk about that. Oh, nice new mic. Thank you. It's actually the old mic that I tried to get to work and didn't. It sounded like crap. But I actually got it to sound a little less like crap, which always makes me happy when I don't screw things up. It's always fun. Hey, hype train going on Twitch. Thank you all. Crazy Hawaiian PA. Thank you for subbing for a month at tier 1. Appreciate that. Ravaging Wolverine. Thank you for resubbing with Prime. Granny Dragon. Thank you for resubbing at tier 1 as well. Really appreciate it. Love you all. Thank you. Greatest audience in the world. I couldn't thank you more. Couldn't ask for better. All right. So, also, I want to thank you all for telling me that I did good on TYT. I actually think that there's a lot of places that I could have done a lot better. A lot of points where, I could have made better points, or I could have been able to chime in a little bit better. Honestly, it's a bit... So y'all maybe might know that I'm a bit of an introvert, okay? Yes, I'm slightly introverted. And so I was trying the whole time, I was like, can I get a word in? Can I get a word in? I was like, I kind of want to get a word in, but I also don't know what to say. And then am I going to fumble my words? It's a whole new level of anxiety that I didn't know existed. And so it was an awesome experience. I really enjoyed it, but I was also like stone cold nervous, like the whole damn time. And look, you know, the crew was great. John was great. Jank was great. Everybody was great. Super nice. And again, lots of fun segments here. And I definitely want to do it again. Thank you. Thank you, Ravaging Wolverine. I appreciate that. It's all right, Tempa Dan. It happens. I get a little late. Happens. But yeah, it is difficult, yes. But it's still fun, and I do want to do that stuff again. I do like being on other people's shows. And now, again, going back to the fact that I'm an introvert, the whole thing just completely drains me. And so, the brain drain after being social. And guys, like, you know, I was all over different. I was on Humanist Report. I was on TDR last Friday, and then of course there was the main show. You know, last week, last Friday for TDR, and so I was getting all over the place, and it kind of wears you out. So, I mean, and I know I'm like talking at an immense level of privilege here, but I do have introversion, and so I do get drained by social situations. And so social situations are actually pretty difficult for me. Even though I really enjoy doing them, it's hard. And again, super privileged take. I understand if you want to be critical about that. Totally. I understand. But that's just my perspective. So, the TDR work format suited you better, works better with Zoom. Yeah, it was actually over Skype. But like, I don't know what they used for their setup, but it was pretty good. It was they had everything routed through the Skype windows, and then they had Brett in there as producer. On TDR they had someone else sitting in doing producer, and so you know they'll like give you hand signals, like countdowns and stuff, and then you got like the screen, like there's you, then you got the host, and then you got the producer, and then you got these screens over there showing everything that's going on for the videos. Like, they got this. And I looked at that, I was like, God damn, that is a setup. I don't know how they were able to do that inside of Skype, but they figured it out. So, I don't know, it was a really, really interesting, really positive, I think, experience. Again, definitely want to do it again. Looking forward to being invited back. And, you know, obviously, the more you do it, the better you're going to get, I think. So, you know, there you go. You just need to get your team of thousands. You know, it would be nice. Yeah, and look, I'm seeing a lot of people that are like, being social in person is exhausting. I feel you, absolutely. The stories were such that everyone was coming up with new stuff on the fly. Yeah, no, here's the thing too. Like, immediately out of the gate, Jank like immediately says pretty much all the points that I was thinking of, and I was like, oh fuck. Now I gotta come up with something interesting. Interesting to say. And so, you know, what are you gonna do? You do your best. And thank you. I really appreciate the you know, the positive words. Y'all are pretty amazing. Thank you. You yourself get to choose not to get drained or pressured. No. Understand, like, it's part of social anxiety. And it's part of, you know, being an introverted person. I love socializing. I love having people on the show. I love going on other people's shows. But it does socially drain me. And then I get the brain drain, and then I'm like tired, like afterwards, and I want to just sit in my room for like the next 2 days and do absolutely nothing. So that's kind of how it works. And so I appreciate that, but it's one of those things where fellow introverts, you all know. And it's a lot easier for me to sit here and talk to you guys and gals, but like through a camera. You know what I'm saying? So, it's, again, it's a fun thing, but it's also a difficult thing to deal with when you have those issues. But to do the best you can, and it is what it is. Takes me 2 weeks to recharge. Hey, it depends. Introverts unite remotely. True. Social anxiety drains you in the same way. Absolutely. No. Well, here's the thing, Uzziah. Cenk could be a bit of a bull in the china shop. Oh yeah, when he's on a segment, like, there's no stopping the guy. It's true. You ever met him in person though? He's actually a super humble guy, and it doesn't seem like that on camera. But no, like all the interactions I've had with him off camera, guy's like super nice. Again, we don't always agree on like the substantive policy stuff, but no, he's a super nice person, very pleasant to be around. I'm not sure who Olake is. I'd have to look into him. Do you ever find yourself speaking up and forgetting what you're saying halfway through? Lucy, all the goddamn time. 100%. That's always happening to me. Always. I hear you. It is the worst. Let's see. I have trouble commenting in chat quite often. Social anxiety when you're not even face to face. Hey, look, everybody's got their thing. And everybody, does their thing the way that they do it. It is what it is. Can't always steps on other people's lines. True. All right. I suppose I should get to some stories. I found this from when Jeff was on Vosh a few months ago. Yeah, hey, that was another good conversation as well. So, again, and I've also been on another person's show, Chris Richards. So, and he and Vosh do not get along. And so here's the thing. I can talk to people from all these different camps and find areas of agreement. And even when there are areas of disagreement, we can discuss that in a civil way, in a good, and not just like civility, blah, blah, blah. No, it's more of like okay, we're going to talk about this thing that we do maybe even vehemently disagree on, but I'm not going to go with ad hominems. I'm not going to call you a sellout or a CIA shill, or I'm not going to call you a Russian plant or a stooge or anything like that. Because I feel like that shuts down lines of communication, and I feel like that's bad. And so I feel like I'm one of the people that tries to see past through all that bullshit noise and actually talk to people on the substantive issues. I think we need more of those discussions on the left, as opposed to what we see right now, which is everybody talking past each other and, throwing out ad homs and whatever the fuck we're doing. I just don't know. You should do some collabs with the Vanguard. Your employers might not be. Okay, first of all, I am my own employer. I am in an affiliation with the Young Turks, but they don't tell me what to do or where I can go. Of course I could go on. Of course I could do a collab with the Vanguard if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could do that. So I can pretty much talk with whoever I want to. Now, that doesn't mean like, I was going to say, it doesn't mean that like someone else couldn't find that conversation and be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't talk to those people, and give a criticism of the conversation. And that's totally fine. You can do that anyway. You could do that with any of my conversations. So it is what it is. Again, I could talk pretty much to, I would think, anybody. But anyway, it was fun. Thank you. By the way, Hype Train, thank you so much for the 4 gifted subs and the 866 bits from everybody. Appreciate that. Oh, by the way, one more thing that's just kind of cap off the conversation I was having earlier, or the talk that I was, what I was saying, is that I will engage in conversation, but only if there are people who are having this conversation in good faith. Like, I'm not going to just talk to somebody who's a bad faith actor and come out of it. And that's the other thing that you got to understand. Like, there are bad faith actors anywhere that you go. There are people that, or their only, aim to have a conversation is to own the other person. And so you got to be mindful of that too, that there are people that are not interested in having conversations, that are only interested in the own. And so, anyway, let's dive in. We got more stories. I haven't even started with my first story. So, there appears to be some drama among the famous legal team that was supposed to reinstall President Donald Trump by proving massive voter fraud in the states. Now, as you might recall, there are some lawyers for Trump, or former lawyers for Trump, that had been traveling all over the country, launching failed lawsuit after failed lawsuit in order to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Both Linwood and Sidney Powell were those for lawyers, respectively, but they were mandated to appear in a Michigan court proceeding on Monday morning. So that happened earlier, and the whole thing was basically to uncover whether or not they will be sanctioned by the state of Michigan for their election lawsuits that were deemed dishonest by colleagues. So they launch their little lawsuits, and they get laughed out of court. All right, great. They get thrown out, and then Michigan says, you know what? These guys not only made some incredibly laughable, terrible claims, but they also did so dishonestly. All right, so there it is. In fact, Detroit lawyer David Fink was a local attorney who both accused the lawyers of lies, unhinged conspiracies, and fraud on the court in recent court filings. Hey, good news. I think we found the fraud. Turns out it was Trump's lawyers. Or maybe, of course, the real fraud was the friends we made along the way. Speaking of friends, the two lawyers, and I use the term pretty loosely because remember, Rudy Giuliani was once considered a great lawyer. Weird. Now he can no longer practice in the state of New York, and I believe in Washington, D.C. So, it is what it is. All right, anyway. Now, those lawyers took a little bit of time throwing each other under the bus. In fact, Reuters Justice reporter Jan Wolfe had live tweeted the proceedings and revealed that at one point Wood distanced himself from Powell, claiming they had nothing to do with the legal filing in question. The very legal filing that they had been called into the Michigan court, for spreading the fraud conspiracy theories and all that stuff, and the lies, the damn dirty lies. Well, he's like, what, me? No, I didn't have anything to do with that. It's all her. No, it was all her. In fact, Wood said, quote, for whatever reason, whoever filed the complaint put my name on there. I didn't have any specific involvement. I mean, how did my name get there? That's weird. Super, super weird. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my God. All right. So Wood claimed that he didn't have proper notice of the sanctions hearing either. The sanction hearing that he was at. Okay, but if you didn't know about it, why are you there? That's a good question. Good question. Now, I know. Shocking that they would actually lie about something, but see, there is no way that he didn't know about it, again, because since he showed up to it, but also because they have records of it being mailed to his house. So either he didn't check his mail or something, I don't know. But apparently he's a big gigantic liar. Just saying. Now, according to Fink, Wood's statement was, quote, blatantly false, and the judge, of course, didn't buy it either. Now, this appears to the court to be an after-the-fact explanation, said U.S. District Judge Linda Parker. Didn't you think you had a duty to notify the court that your name was on a lawsuit and you hadn't given permission? Powell then went back at Wood, saying that she specifically sought his permission before putting his name on the lawsuit. Quote, there may have been some kind of miscommunication. Oh, of course, yeah, miscommunication, that's what it is. But it gets, no, this entire thing gets clownier. As if it's not clownish enough, it gets worse. During the Monday sanctions hearing for Wood and Powell, their lawyers, the lawyers' lawyers, argued that their clients didn't have to basically be in this. They didn't have to go and correct any of this. In fact, Detroit lawyer Fink had accused Powell and Wood of recklessness in making citations in the court document that were easily disproved with a simple Google search. Fink said that Powell and Wood alleged that in Detroit there was over 100% vote count. Fink said that anyone could search the actual election results and find the corrected percentage on the county clerk's website. However, a November 6th report from Michigan Live revealed that a software settings error caused a precinct to miscalculate the numbers, but it was corrected later on. Still, that over 100% claim had made it into the court filing, and Fink said that those numbers were then used by former President Donald Trump in his attempt to extort Georgia Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. All it took was 30 seconds for me to look on the internet and find the correct answer, Fink said about the claim. Powell and Wood's lawyers claimed that those lawyers are not statisticians, and that they wrote in the court filing that they were citing a report over 100% of over 100% voters. So they basically are saying, look, these lawyers, I mean, their entire lawsuit was based on a report. That report said 100%. It's not their fault the report was wrong. No, of course not. It's not their fault. Now, that report, again, said exactly what they wanted it to say. Hey, look at that. Oh, wow, big evidence of voter fraud. But it turns out it's not true. Fink argued that the lawyers ought to have due diligence, to confirm what they put in the filings. Powell and Wood's lawyer explained that they were correctly citing the report. So, again, they said, well, we just cited a report. It's not our fault that it was wrong. But you based your entire case on that. And then went on to make incredibly misleading false statements to the court. I mean, insanity. Now, here's the thing. That error, I can understand why conspiracy theorists would glom onto it. Understandably so, right? I mean, you can't really prove it. You know, that there wasn't fraud, right? And by nature, conspiracies themselves are really difficult to disprove. Because what you can do is make things up. And that's what they're doing. They're making things up. And saying, well, you can't prove that it's not true. Well, yeah, you can. I mean, yes. But it doesn't matter if they don't actually believe the source that the debunking is coming from. You see what I mean? So it gets a little dicey, right? And what they do, what conspiracy theorists love to do, is ascribe motives to people that don't exist. Okay? So they'll say, for example, oh, no, it said 100%, but then the deep state came in and fixed it, when in reality, they fixed the whole thing. So it ends up being to the point that there is no amount of debunking that will ever change their mind. This ends up basically having them move the goalpost. Now, the problem here for Wood and Powell, of course, is that they are technically lawyers, And it turns out that you can't lie as a lawyer to the judge in a courtroom. You can't make false statements in court. That's a law. You get in trouble if you break that law. And so your conspiracy theories don't work in court. It's not going to fly. And here's the other thing, right? Powell and Wood's lawyers claimed that they could defend their court filing if the court allowed them to have a hearing or a trial and call witnesses cited in their document. You know, the witnesses that are armed with conspiracy theories. Now, here's the other thing, as I said, they already had their time in court to argue about voter fraud. They failed to make a convincing argument because, again, they had no proof. Sworn affidavits are not proof in itself, right? A sworn affidavit is just somebody saying, "Yo, yeah, of course, I will swear to the court upon penalty of perjury that this is what I saw." Now, you may think that you saw fraud. That doesn't mean it's proof of fraud. Okay? And so there's that. And so what you're doing when you base your, evidence on sworn affidavits, which is what they have, you're asking a judge to believe an extraordinary claim based on the words of a few people. And of course, any other evidence, or so-called evidence that you might have, which isn't, based in conspiracy. And they don't really have much of that. Again, they have those sworn statements, and they've got shitty YouTube videos. And so that's really what it is. You're going to need to do better than that if you actually want to prove that there is massive voter fraud. But you can't because there isn't the proof there. They're conspiracy theories. They're only going to do one thing. It's going to waste more time. It's going to waste more money that could have been directed at doing other things than just relitigating the 2020 election. Is there another Steve? I see you're talking about Steven Crowder. His before and after pictures are very, very strange. Very strange. It's like, what if? I'm going to launch a new conspiracy theory right now. What if that's the Crowder body double? I said it here. I started it here. Crowder body double. Everybody. All right. That was a pleasant chat time. Glad you enjoyed that. Appreciate that. Crowder body double. It's not the real Steven Crowder. The real Steven Crowder died after Sam Cedar wrecked him. So stay here. Now, Turning Point USA had to create a new Steven Crowder out of, I don't know, what would they make? What would they make a new Steven Crowder out of? Discarded hair and skin flakes or something. He's a clone. Died from rectum. Oh, Automod, you're terrible. Birds aren't real. It's true. It's all true. Okay, anyway. They're cloning Cold Feet. You guys. I have like really bad. I get distracted incredibly easily. And so this is not helping the discussion of Cold Feet Crowder's clone. We can rebuild him. We can rebuild him worse and more racist. Oh shit. All right. Anyway, let's go to the Prager use. And some of you are like, "What are you talking about? Prager use sus?" Yeah. Okay. Yeah, anyway. PragerU continues to rage against critical race theory. You know, the whole idea that American institutions were originally set up in a way that benefited white, wealthy landowners and discriminated against everyone else, mainly people of color. So now some of those institutions, a lot of those institutions, persist until into this day. Things like the war on drugs, things like practices like redlining, mass incarceration of people of color, etc. However, in a very strange twist, Prager recently put out a tweet that kind of made our point for us. Take a look. Young people are enamored with anti-racist rhetoric because they think they're fighting racist systems in America. The truth is, they're fighting America itself and the very values the country was founded on. Yeah. Based. True. I mean, look, we're fighting against the racist ones. Yes. The fact that this country was founded with slavery being legal is not good. Well, I think we can all agree that's kind of a bad thing, right? And now we have progressed since then. Yes, obviously. However, the result of that slavery, and of course, not to mention the treatment of Chinese people, the treatment of the indigenous people that inhabited the land before us, all that stuff is still really bad, and the legacy of all of that is being felt even today. That's the legacy. That's what critical race theory is pretty much all about. And again, Jim Crow laws, another example. A modern example, the way that schools are funded. That actually also means unequal outcomes for people of color. The way, of course, property taxes fund, local schools. That means that poorer neighborhoods with lower property values get worse schools. Wealthier neighborhoods get better schools. Now, who holds most of the wealth, most of the generational wealth in this country? Happens to be white people. Who holds a larger percentage of the crippling student loan debt in this country? Well, it happens to be people of color. Because they don't have those equal upbringings, that good education. And there are other things in the way. Those are some of the systems in this country that are problematic. This is why people talk about critical race theory at the college level. That's what we're talking about. And again, this has been taught at the college level for years. So what's with the freak out then about critical race theory? Oh my God, it's coming to your classroom. It's going to tell your kids that everything that they're terrible because they're white. For one, no, it doesn't. Okay? No, it doesn't. That's not what critical race theory is saying. It's saying that, yes, there are a lot of white people that do benefit from those systems of oppression. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're actively engaging or propping up those systems of oppression or that they're being overtly racist. It's just the fact that those systems exist. Now, once you know about those systems and continue to prop them up and continue to support them, even knowing what you know, which, again, I think, to be fair, I'm going to be fair to a lot of people don't know about this. This is why critical race theory is important. This is why it should be taught. But a lot of people just don't know the impact of this stuff. A lot of white people don't know. And so conservatives seem to be desperate to make sure that that ignorance continues. And that's the big problem here. And so, yes, those systems are problematic. But again, the problem with it, the reason that conservatives are bringing it up now is, yes, because they don't want things to change. But for second, it really gets their crowd riled up. This is the new right-wing boogeyman. We know conservatives don't want history taught, real history. They don't want critical race theory. They don't want books to discuss slavery. They don't want people to talk about the impact, even after civil rights, of all the protests, of all the laws that are made to discriminate against black people, all the ways that they tried to shut down voting for black people. They don't want any of that stuff. And so, yes, they want to keep people ignorant of that history. And most importantly, they want to continue to perpetuate the way things are. Why? Because, well, the people who fund the Republican Party the most are the ones who benefited from those systems of oppression. So, all right. By the way, they don't want to teach, again, that history. They call it anti-American, right? Actually, in reality, oppression is probably one of the most American things ever. When you look at our history, when you actually look at our history with a critical eye, and you look at the stuff that we've done, you look at the imperialism that we have engaged in, and you look at the way that we have treated the indigenous people, black people, the Chinese, and other ethnic groups that at the time were undesirables. At one point, it was the Irish. Even so, out of all of those different ethnic groups, black people still absolutely had it the worst because they weren't even treated as human beings. So, anyway, what we should really do, is accept that that history is American, because it is literally the history of America, and accept that as the dark stain that it is, but most importantly, fix it. Fix it. And that's the point of knowing things. And the fact that they are fighting so hard to deny it means one thing. It means they don't believe that it's actually wrong. They don't think anything's wrong with this. Big problem, right? So now, I got a couple of responses to this, by the way. Since this did get a pretty good ratio on Twitter, one of them is Vosh saying simply, "This one slaps." It's a good tweet. All right. Bo with the fifth column says, "When did Prager you become woke? Where else am I going to get my daily fix of conservative racist rhetoric?" I know, right? You might have to do some digging. Might maybe sign up on Gab. Critical-based theory says, "When you accidentally admit that critical race theory is correct..." Oh, by the way, you've also got this tweet. You know that famous painting of the signing the Declaration of Independence? Somebody put a red dot over the face of every slaveholder. Behold, the values our country was founded on. Oh, look at that. There's a lot of red dots. Tons of red dots. And then finally, Stephanie Williams tweets, "So what you're saying is America itself and the very values the country were founded on were in fact racist." Got it. And yes, America was founded on numerous racist values and beliefs. And ignoring those facts keeps America from being the best that it can be. Thanks for clarifying. Yep. And really, that's sort of the point. Again, this isn't to trash America. I love this country. I love the promise of what it could be. We are so far away from that promise. But learning things, teaching things, knowledge, understanding the true history of this country, and not falling into blind patriotism, I feel like that's the way out. And the way to make this country actually live up to its real promise. Okay. Nothing is bad about CRT unless you're a right-winger, then everything is wrong with CRT. True. 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 All right, hold on a second. before we get into the next story. Literal genocide denial going on in China. Yeah, the Uyghur genocide. That is absolutely happening. Yes. And it's it's that cultural genocide that's going on. No, that's a good point. Is there a possibility that people are outraged over CAT because they feel attacked by its theories? I think people feel outraged over critical race theory mainly because the ideas itself that are presented, or the theories, I should say, are presented in a way that doesn't actually represent what it is. Like what's really going on. Also, Canadian Indigenous genocide needs to be considered as such. Also true. Also true. Very, very true. And that's unfortunately been going on as well. The right wing is so ridiculous with their fear of CRT when no one is even teaching CRT. Yeah. No, that's another really good point, because what they're doing, and I seen this, basically a mile away when this started popping up. This is their new migrant caravan. That's what it is. Migrant caravans. That's what it is. Oh, look, we need something to be scared of. We need something to attack. I know, critical race theory. Let's talk about how this is actually racism towards white people. No, it's not. It's literally explaining what our country has done. Literal history. But yeah, don't know what that is, but Tucker Carlson said it's horrendous. So it must be bad. And that's the other thing. When you ask people about it, it's like, oh, it's just bad. It's bad. It's racist. But you don't know what it is. Yeah, but I know it's bad. Yeah, okay. All right. Anyway, let's move on. A Newsmax host just recently leaned hard into survival of the fittest. Take a look.
I've one thing I've always thought, and maybe you can guide me on this because obviously I'm not a doctor, but when I've always thought about vaccines, and I always think about just nature and the way everything works. And I feel like a vaccination in a weird way is just generally kind of going against nature. Like, I mean, if there's some disease out there, maybe there's just an ebb and flow to life where something's supposed to wipe out a certain amount of people, and that's just kind of the way evolution goes. Vaccines kind of stand in the way of that. Do you follow what I'm saying? Does that make sense to somebody in medicine?
I'm sorry, what? What? Okay, look, that's Newsmax host Rob Schmidt. And wow. Wait. That's fucked up. Let's just say that, okay? So you're going to argue that medicine is against nature while sitting in a building talking to a camera that's also against nature. You want to talk about what's natural versus what's unnatural. Well, I mean, again, you probably cooked your breakfast this morning, didn't you? Maybe made some coffee in a coffee maker. Not natural. That's not natural either. Did you drive to work instead of walk? Better hope you didn't wear shoes, because turns out shoes, not natural. What about clothes? Well, obviously you're wearing clothes, right? Not natural, against nature. At least the ones that you're wearing. You should be wearing either nothing or an animal skin that you skinned yourself. Natural. What a ridiculous talking point. Ridiculous. Having heat in the winter, cooling in the summer, electricity in your house or in your studio, running water, a toilet, none of that's natural. But guess what? It stopped millions of people from dying of exposure or illness due to not sanitation or disease from eating uncooked or spoiled food. That's what vaccines do. They save lives by preventing people from getting seriously ill from viruses. That's it. That's it. In fact, the CDC ranks vaccination among the most significant public health achievements of the 20th century, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. The CDC also reported that over the last 2 decades, immunizations prevented more than 21 million hospitalizations, 732,000 child deaths in the United States, and translates into nearly $295 billion in savings on direct healthcare costs. So overall, vaccine's good. The vaccine's good. I don't know what else I can add to that. But wait, there's more stupid and disinformation.
Well, there are some reports that support what you're saying. There's one by Neeson and colleagues from Boston and the Mayo Clinic that shows among vaccinated populations, the diversity of different strains is narrowing. So it's going to be fewer numbers of strains. Right now in the United States, we're about 40% UK variant or the Alpha variant, and we're about 30% now Delta, which is the Indian variant. They get progressively weaker, but the diversity is changing with vaccination. And I think probably the best way to think about it is vaccines really ought to be targeted to protect the highest risk individuals. A young person like you, if you got COVID, it's very easily treatable. You get through it, and natural immunity for sure is superior.
Yeah, that's you make a good point there. Again, it's like if you've got this big risk, I think it might be worth whatever it is. But if you don't have a risk, I can't comprehend why you would take something. They start learning about the heart inflammation and stuff like that. I just don't understand why it's being pushed so hard on people that are very young, and now they're trying to give it to kids.
No, those were not good points. Those were actually fake talking points, not real, actually. In fact. He claimed the Delta variant of the coronavirus is a small amount of cases. It's actually about half of all new cases now. And also claimed that over time, the variants get weaker. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Who gave this guy a degree? Well, I was going to ask, who put this guy on TV? But we already know, Newsmax, obviously. They're the only ones that would put a crank like that on TV. Honestly. No, in reality, look, the World Health Organization is calling this, the Delta variant, the fastest and the fittest. Yale Medicine reports the Delta variant is, quote, more contagious than the other virus strains. It is not weaker. It's better. Better at infecting people. That's what I mean by that. Not better overall. It's actually worse for us overall. It's better at infecting people. It's actually about 50% more effective than the other strain, which was also 50% more effective at, infecting people than the original strain. Wow. In fact, Yale Medicine epidemiologist Dr. Perry Wilson said, quote, Delta is spreading 50% faster than Alpha, which was 50% more contagious than the original strain. And so Schmidt also talked about the kids. If you don't have a risk. Well, everybody's at risk. But he says, I just can't comprehend why you would take something. They start learning about the heart inflammation and stuff like that. I just understand why it's being pushed so hard on people that are very young, and now they're trying to give it to kids. Okay, wait. The heart inflammation issue. Let me talk about that. If you're actually legitimately concerned about this, let me try to ease your mind a bit. All right? Because, hey, it is a significant thing. It is a significant issue. Yes, there are some patients that after receiving their second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, whether it be Pfizer or Moderna, have suffered heart inflammation. And that could be a very serious issue. In fact, I have some data on that. Since April of 2021, there have been more than 1,000 credible reports to the vaccine adverse event reporting system of cases of inflammation of the heart called myocarditis and pericarditis happening after the mRNA COVID-19 vaccination in the United States. So now, that 1,000. Oh man, that's obviously a lot of cases, right? I mean, tons and tons of cases of, of this heart inflammation, right? In fact, confirmed cases have occurred mostly in male adolescents and young adults 16 years or older, often after the second dose, more often after the second dose, actually, and it happens typically within several days after the vaccine. However, look at it this way, several thousand, right? Or more, I'm sorry, not several thousand, more than 1,000. How many people have taken the vaccine? More than 177 million people have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine in the United States, and more than 331 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines were administered in the United States from December 14th, 2020 through July 6th of 2021. During this time, the vaccine reporting system, and this gets to a further point, right? They actually received about 5,946 reports of deaths. That's about 0.0018% among people who received the vaccine. So you got 1,000 people or over 1,000 people that had inflammation, but you had about 6,000 deaths just from people who had the vaccine. But wait, that doesn't mean it's from the vaccine. Now, the FDA actually requires healthcare providers to report any death after the COVID-19 vaccination. It is unclear whether or not the vaccine is actually the cause of these deaths. So, in total, you've got about 7,000 roughly people out of 331 million doses of the vaccine. When it comes down to the numbers, it's an incredibly small amount of people, infinitesimally small amount of people who actually have any sort of interaction, negative interaction with this vaccine. And again, when it comes to the deaths, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a result of the vaccine. And so, that said, most patients, when it comes to the heart issue, receive care, and had received care for that, ended up responding well to treatment, getting some rest, feeling better, and getting back to work and getting back to their lives within a couple of days. So that's the heart issue. Okay, well, so there you go. Now let's compare that to the amount of deaths and hospitalizations among the unvaccinated. Of the cases that have gotten, that have increased in this country during the most recent COVID spike as a result of the Delta variant, you had 99.7% of all the deaths and hospitalizations from COVID-19 among the unvaccinated. So, I mean, that's fairly self-explanatory, all right? So my question is, of course, what'll it be? The survival of the fittest, which still, by the way, even if you survive, and nobody ever talks about this on the right, but if you get COVID-19 and you're unvaccinated, there is a chance that you will recover, but end up being left with some, medical issues afterwards, whether it be reduced lung capacity or neurological issues. These are things, again, that people don't talk about, okay? Those kinds of issues persist for the rest of your life. And so, yeah, there's a good chance you might end up with some of those issues. Or even if you do recover and you might have been a serious case, you could go into the hospital, get rack up a crap load of debt, because this is America after all, in medical debt from hospitalization, which you can't discharge to bankruptcy. And then, well, what are you going to do? Or, of course, you also might just end up fine and get minor sick, not get all that massively sick, okay? You'll have a minor case and you'll get over it in a few days or a week or so, whatever. It's really a roll of the dice But here's what you could do. You don't have to take any of those chances. You could just get the vaccine. That's it. You could just get the vaccine. I mean, ultimately, it is your choice to get the vaccine. But I think that you should probably choose to do the smart thing and get the vaccine. So, I'm just saying. Moving on. One more story here. Yeah. Representative Lauren Boebert really does not like government benefits. And she's going to tell you how much she doesn't like them in this next video.
We're here to tell government, we don't want your benefits. We don't want your welfare. Don't come knocking on my door with your Fauci outie. You leave us the hell alone.
All right. So now here's the irony about this. Lauren Boebert took the benefits. Yes, that's right. Lauren Boebert has talked about the days in which she herself had welfare. Now, I think that's totally fine. Yes, guess what? Turns out welfare is there for when you need it. The thing is that what Lauren Boebert wants to do, and my problem with her, is that, oh, now that she used that to get to the place where she's at now, and oh, she's got the American dream, she owned a restaurant, and now she's a member of Congress. Well, now she wants to kick the ladder out from behind her, from underneath her, okay? And so that's a little bit of a problem. Again, welfare is actually great. I think it's great. It's there to help people, to get them back on their feet. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, this isn't what conservatives say it is. Conservatives say that, oh, no, welfare, oh, man, terrible welfare. We're spending so much money on lazy people, and they're not doing anything good, and so we should just, destroy the welfare system. Okay, for one, how many people are on welfare? And by the way, this is the temporal need for families, right? So about 1.5 million Americans had actually obtained, and these are some older numbers because I don't have any more recent numbers on welfare. But in 2015, about 1.5 million families were reported to be on the Temporary Aid for Needy Families program, or TANF, or welfare. Okay, so now, obviously, I would assume that the number probably went up during the pandemic, as a lot of people lost their jobs. All right, but again, I don't have data for how many people are on it. And at this point, I would assume that that number is, again, higher, but will eventually go back down, as it usually does, and I've got more data on that. Now, secondly, this is not for bums who don't want to work. In 2012, the most recent year for which comprehensive data is available, more than 42% of TANF families included a household member that had a job. So that's almost half that have somebody who works. So no, not for lazy freeloaders. The vast majority also, and by the way, most TANF recipients only get benefits for short periods of time. For example, from 2008 to 2011, as the Great Recession ended, most of those people were out of the program in 4 months or less. So, yeah, for only, oh my God, I'm going through a hard time. Well, okay, there is a welfare program. I will sign up for welfare, and then I will try to get out of the situation that I'm in. But this welfare is actually helping it so that my family does not starve. Okay, great, that's what it's for. To make sure that you and your family don't starve or lose your house or whatever. Great, that's what it's for. So now the vast majority of Americans who also got TANF benefits in the years of 1999 to 2008 actually received it for no more than 2 of those years, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, I'm giving you all that context and information because, well, I mean, it's important to have the information and to show you that it's not what conservatives say that it is. Boebert, as I said, benefited from the system perfectly fine. But again, she wants to kick the ladder out from behind her and end that system, which is already incredibly limited in what they give. You know how much, on average, people get on welfare? Oh, it must be like $3-4 grand. They must be living high in the hog, right? TANF cash grants averaged about $442 per family as of July 2015. The maximum monthly grant available to households with 1 adult and 2 children ranged from a low of $170 in Mississippi to a maximum of $923 in Alaska. At most, if you're in Alaska and getting $900 a month, that's like 10 grand. Max. That's for the whole year. That's not monthly. They're not living high on the hog. Okay? No. It's for like a year. Now, of course, conservatives will do the trick. They're like, oh, man, what about all the other welfare programs? You got food stamps, you got Medicaid. Add all that stuff together, and people might be making close to minimum wage. So that's like around $15,000 per year in government benefits. Okay, now here's an idea. If you don't want to spend that money on welfare, all right, I get it. Here's what you should do. Raise the minimum wage. Raise the minimum wage, and then make it easier for families with children to get affordable childcare. I mean, that's really simple. Just do that. Those 2 things would actually help out a lot of families and get more people back into work. And again, better paying jobs means less people taking government benefits. And that's it. Again, just a thought. Now, of course, you got some criticism for this. One member here is AOC. Here's what she said. Quote, I think I have a picture of the tweet here. Maybe. Nope. That's not it. All right, never mind. I thought I had it. Here's what she said. Tell them loud and proud, girl. GOP will strip your unemployment protections and dismantle any semblance of a public safety net we have left. Then make working people pay way more for everything on low wages while Wall Street gets a meal ticket. Good old conservative values, baby. True. She ain't wrong. You want to know where the real welfare is going? The real welfare goes to the rich and corporations. Under the Trump administration's gigantic tax cut, 60% of the benefits went to the richest 20% of Americans, with the largest cut of share of income actually going to the top 5%, whereas corporate taxes were cut 40%. And then we find out, thanks to ProPublica, that the richest people in America, as a result of all the tax cuts and loopholes, again, remember, the main promise of the tax cuts for the Trump tax cut, we're going to lower the rate and we're going to close all the loopholes, says Mitch McConnell. Oh, we're going to close those loopholes. And what did they do? They cut the rate, they lowered the rate, and then left almost all the loopholes in. And so, yes, their effective tax rate of some of the wealthiest Americans ends up being less than 1% in some cases, 3% in others, an ungodly low amount. That's what's wrong with this country. Corporations, by the way, like Amazon, paid absolutely nothing. Bezos himself paid next to nothing, percentage-wise. Gee, I wonder how these guys are able to afford to go into space right now. They could do their own space race. This is something that countries themselves used to do. Entire nations were doing space races with each other. But now we don't have to do that because we got a couple of billionaires. No, tax the rich. Tax the rich. And not only that, but for the Paycheck Protection Program, we're not done with the welfare, right? Because that was another gigantic form of corporate welfare, the Paycheck Protection Program. During Trump's administration, most of that aid went to large corporations, with only 5% of recipients taking half of the $525 billion that went out the door. I don't think it's the people on welfare that are the real problem. Do you? We do have a class of parasites that are sucking up all the resources for themselves. They're called the 1%, top 1%. Now, look, to be fair, some of those millionaires are saying, hey, look, this isn't fair. Yeah, okay, we don't need all this money. And we know that there are major societal problems that happen when people like us have all the money. So instead of, continuing to pass more tax cuts for me, which I don't need, I would like my money to go to do something better. Now, those people, they're good people. Yes, they're also, by the way, people that don't want to end up in the guillotine. To be fair, those people are a minority. They're not in the ones that are in control of the Republican Party. Now, the Republican Party is controlled by people like the Mercers or the remaining Koch brother that pay politicians to continue to... And by the way, so they continue to use public infrastructure and then call to privatize that infrastructure so that they can monetize that infrastructure, pollute the air, pay their workers like crap, and at the end of the day, not pay any taxes. That's who the Republican Party is. As for Boebert, going back to her, Boebert was on welfare. So at this point, she's kind of a class traitor. I mean, again, later on, she's like, oh, I use that welfare. It's kind of like the story of Paul Ryan. Oh, I grew up on Social Security, and then I used that money, and I got somewhere with it. Well, that's great and all. In fact, that is the American dream. Only problem is, now you're trying to kill the American dream for other people, which basically, again, it's already doesn't exist at this point. It never really did. But at the same time, the thing that you would say is the American dream, like, hey, starting from the bottom, and now I'm up here, and now I'm doing much better, and, yes, I had government benefits along the way. Well, now they just want to make sure that nobody gets that opportunity. Nobody gets those benefits. That's the problem. And so, look, Lauren Boebert, not a regular working class person. You know what Lauren Boebert found? She found the money. Just the same with all these big time Republicans. They're more than happy to kick the working class down if it means that they get a bigger paycheck. And that's really what it's all about. Cobra got a huge giveaway, even if those funds were used by people or not. Yeah, Cobra's a joke. No, you're 100% right when it comes to the giveaways to the health insurance company. Look, Democrats give away a ton of money too to the rich, and work for the pharmaceutical companies. Why do you think that we can't even undo the Trump plan when it came to prescription drugs? That actually helps prescription drug companies. So no, like when it comes to that kind of stuff, yeah, Democrats are better on social issues, but they're just almost just like Republicans on economic issues. They're rich, and they defend their donors. That's what it is. They're paid to defend the donors. and in some cases are paid to lose to the donors on these issues. Again, on other issues, on social issues, Democrats are pretty good if they actually stand and fight for it. But on these economic issues, they're almost just like Republicans. Giant Pants says, being poor is very expensive. It's the most expensive thing in your life. 100%. 100%. All right. Let me read here. I've got a couple of super chats that I would like to read before I go. Well, let's just get into that, because I saw a couple of those, and I really appreciate it. It's very, very kind of you. Super chats. Here we go. LL says, love how he's saying that there's treatment for now if you get it, so don't vaccinate it to prevent it. A free vaccine versus a hospital bill. Also, all those new wonderful treatments are not effective on the new variants. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about the treatments. Oh, man. Oof. All right. Thank you for that. And thank you, Dionysus, for the very kind super chat, the super sticker. Appreciate that. Let's see. Thank you for all the new follows. Sunshine Drea, thank you for subscribing, resubscribing, tier 1, appreciate that. Happy Monday to you as well. Thank you. All right. Fauci says we don't need boosters yet, but we might for the J&J. Yeah, they're already talking about boosters. They're already talking about the boosters. I mean, Pfizer's talking about the boosters. These drug companies, that's what they're talking about. Because they want to monetize it. Like, well, hey, look, it works. Now we want to make some cash off of it. Of course, right? It doesn't mean, like I said, that the science isn't sound, that these don't work. They absolutely do work. The science is sound, but of course they want to monetize it. Duh. Of course. All right. I think that's all. So no booster. We're not. Again, none of the epidemiologists right now are saying that we're ready for a booster. So, not yet, friends. Not yet. Okay. All right. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. We're gonna raid into somebody else. Who are we gonna raid into today? We've got Left Flank Vets, Surfs, or the Hannah Reloaded. That's on. So, any suggestions here for the from the chat over here in the Twitch chat? For everybody else, again, thank you. I really do appreciate you all. Like, you know that, right? Let's see. Who do we got? Yeah, I know you're a little late, Fun Sweet. We're gonna be raiding into somebody else here. Gee, you know, if I don't get any if I don't get any suggestions here on my Twitch, I'm gonna have to raid Hassan. And you know how that's gonna turn out. Raid Hassan. I'll do it. Surfs raid. I don't see Lumi on. Maybe my thing's out of date. I raided Lumi last. Did I raid it on Friday? Did I raid her or their stream on Friday? I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see their channel. So I apologize. I always get I always get confused. All right, anyway. We'll do a source raid. Again, Lumi is they, them. Very, very based person, though. All right, we'll raid into the serfs. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.
Amazing.
Give me a break.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
There's insanity in the control room.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.